Has the Amcu Platinum Belt strike caused irreparable damage to the country's economy? Is the settlement a real triumph for workers, or is it them that are getting a raw deal? Has the Platinum Belt strike set the scene for more labour turmoil? Is it time for government perhaps to overhaul union-friendly laws? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Naledi Moleo, standing in for Mpotse. Thousands of miners have returned to work on the Northwest Platinum Belt. This after the signing of an agreement to end the 5-month strike yesterday. The mining companies and Amcu have agreed the workers won't be going underground just yet. They are to undergo fitness and medical tests before they can start working, and it's expected to take weeks before operations return to normal. Now, my guests in studio today are A.B. Khotle, the Executive Vice President of Human Capital at Lonmin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Afternoon.
And we're also joined in studio by Jeff Mpatlele, who is General Secretary of Amcu. Ndate, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Well, Ndate Mpatlele, perhaps let's begin with you. Is this an amicable ending? Are you happy with the way that things have turned out?
We are excited about the way things have turned up. If you asked this question 2 months back, one would not be in a position to say what I've just said. I think we are extremely happy for such an achievement for our workers.
And from the side of the mine producers, specifically Lonmin, is this an amicable ending?
No, lady, this is indeed an amicable ending. We have gone through a very painful, difficult process of negotiating this deal, and indeed we are relieved that a solution has now been found.
Mm-hmm. Well, it certainly hasn't been the smoothest of 5 months. A lot of allegations of violence. We have a handful of people that are reportedly dead through the past 5 months of the strike. And still, Ndate Mathunjwa reportedly calling this a peaceful labour action that we've seen over the past 5 months. Is that something that you still stand by?
Yes, we stand by that. You would remember that the first killing only happened after 3 months when the strike was running. And that happened at the hands of the police. So the strike has been peaceful. You must also remember that this was not just a normal strike of 5,000 people. It was close to 100,000 people were on strike. So to control that number, it takes effort from everybody. But we confirm that, yes, this was a very peaceful strike.
Well, certainly there had to have been external factors that also led up to us being able to reach some sort of agreement at this point, specifically from the mine producers' point of view. Over the past 5 months, academia also having compiled a few reports about whether or not the various mines could have afforded the demands made by the workers. Do you think that influenced the decisions made at the negotiating table at all?
Well, look, I mean, the process of engagement with Amcu has been ongoing for the last 5 months. We have had instances of different parties being involved in trying to unlock this dispute. And most recently, the Minister of Mines getting the parties to try and drive us towards a settlement. So clearly, what we have arrived at is a point that, by and large, has been achieved because of this engagement that we've had with Amcu. We still hold the view that indeed affordability is an issue, but we had to find a solution, and we have now arrived at that solution.
Mm-hmm. Is this a solution that you could say that Amcu specifically is satisfied with, having gone into the negotiations with a certain benchmark set for themselves? Is this ideal? Starting out payers, those that are the lowest paid, getting 1,000 Rand more from now onwards over the next 3 years. Is this something amicable? What does that mean post 2017?
I think when you look at the background or the history towards the wage negotiation, particularly in the Platinum Belt, no union has achieved that. So it was our first time as Amcu to negotiate that platinum, those mines. And we are content that, yes, we have done extremely well under these circumstances.
Right. Is this the same feeling coming from mine producers?
Look, I think our primary focus has been to try and get to a solution. We, both parties, Amcu and ourselves, have had to find a way of moving towards a position that we could eventually, conclude as a solution. And clearly, very, very high increases that have been agreed upon. And as we have discussed with Amcu, and as we have outlined in our different agreements, these agreements have to be accompanied by a number of things, and one of those is significant improvements in productivity, because without that, it's going to be extremely difficult for the companies to afford this level of increases going forward.
Well, I want to go back to the negotiations that Amcu had gone into the negotiations with, having set a certain benchmark and having now come out of signing the agreement. Let's break down what the agreement actually means for some of the workers, and break down some of the terms that were agreed upon.
Right. This agreement contains similarly, basically the agreement in terms of the basics. You would understand that most of these mines were sort of running away against the increment that would be included in the basic. What they will normally do, they will sort of add to these other allowances, and some of these increment would be apportioned to not to the basic, but to cash payments and cost to company, etc. So that was the problem which, in the first instance, Amcu had, because you could not, as a worker, at any point in time that you would stand up in front of the bank and ask for a loan. They will tell you that your basic is low. That's why we're concerned about the basic. And when we have such an improvement on the basic, I think it puts our members on a very good pedestal to launch themselves into economic activities again. So that was primarily the achievement of Amcu at this point in time. All along, companies were just putting on total cost to company, which had some negative impact when you look at the incremental steps and years that has to follow after that, because given the background, to reach where we are right now, it would take almost 4 years, up to 7 years, to achieve just the amount that we have achieved. Yes.
Were there differences in negotiations with the discussions that were had with various producers and various companies? We see that Lonmin has agreed to that increment of 1,000 Rand for the lowest paid miners over 3 years, even including that third year, but not the same with Implats and Mplats.
You'd understand that there are certain dynamics that are at play. And he talks about affordability. So that's what they brought in and say, this is what we can afford when we have stretched and exhausted ourselves. So we have to look into that as well as a trade union. We could not achieve all what we wanted, but I think under these circumstances, I still maintain that we have done extremely well. And yes, 2 companies paid similarly, and then the other one was a bit higher with the 15 Rand.
All right, so it's
which
not
is
to say,
yes.
That is not to say that Lonmin was easier to heckle.
No.
Look, I think the reality of the matter is, as Jeff has just outlined, you had this unique environment where the 3 companies were negotiating as a unit for the first time. Different circumstances at different companies, and if you look at the agreement in respect of A and B band, it's this 1,000 Rand that you're talking about. If you look at the C band employees, Lonmin would be at 8%, 7.5 and 7.5, 8% in year 1 and 7.5 in years 2 and 3, whereas the others would probably have different numbers, but very close to those numbers. So we had to accommodate the unique circumstances of the different companies throughout these negotiations.
Right. Well, I would like to start looking into the future and see what this means for the workers, for the producers themselves. But question time takes a break. Don't go away.
The Swaziland Tourism Authority invited Kaleidoscope on a media tour of what has become known as the Little Switzerland of Africa, the Kingdom of Swaziland. The Mantanga waterfall is one of Swaziland's best known and most accessible waterfalls, as it can be seen within 50 meters.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
The Kenyan actress is the first from her country to win an Academy Award. Her Best Actress Oscar win has inspired many in Kenya.
Nyong'o's victory has made the headlines in all of the country's newspapers. This was Nyong'o's first role in a film after she had completed postgraduate studies in America.
Players in South Africa's music industry will attend the Music Exchange program in Cape Town, South Africa.
We as Africans, we have to embrace what is unique about us and about our music.
That's Afro Showbiz News, Saturdays 7:30 p.m. on SABC News.
United States President Barack Obama has expressed sadness over the shooting at a U.S. Army base in Fort Hood in Texas. A soldier opened fire on fellow service members at the military base, killing 3 people and wounding 16 others before committing suicide at the same post.
I want to just assure all of us that we are going to get to the bottom of exactly what happened. Any shooting is troubling. Obviously, this reopens the pain of what happened at Fort Hood 5 years ago.
We urge you to stay with us here on AM News on Channel 404 on DSTV with myself, Elvis Preston.
And me, Kendo Makamati.
We'll be back at the top of the hour, so do not touch that remote.
That's AM News, daily at 10 a.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. We continue our discussion with our 2 guests, looking at that agreement signed by Amcu and, of course, the Platinum Mile Belt, finally seeing an end to the 5-month strike that we've seen taking place since January the 23rd, a record-breaking strike indeed. And I think a lot of relief having come out of the fact that we've seen this agreement being signed. Just before the break, we spoke about affordability, specifically affordability from the mine producers themselves. Looking at various reports that have been written, as I mentioned earlier, by academia throughout the past 5 months. A lot of discussions around affordability for the mines, a lot of discussions around what then happens after 2014. A lot of analysts that have also argued that Amcu themselves perhaps having jumped the gun here by requesting 12.5 thousand rand. What happens after 2017?
Look, I think we have now concluded a 3-year agreement with Amcu. And that 3-year agreement contains a number of things that between ourselves and Amcu have had to accept as an outcome. And clearly, if you look at that agreement, there are 2 distinct elements to the agreement. There's one which deals with the wages themselves. And it's precisely because we don't think that the multitude of challenges that we are facing will be resolved only through wages, which is why we have also agreed on a number of process issues. And those process issues, amongst others, include the work that we are doing insofar as improving the living conditions of our employees is concerned, the work that we would like to do in terms of ownership, the new ESOP program that we need to put in place, the work that we continue to do insofar as improving the overall livelihood of employees, be that through financial management training, be that through ensuring that we are able to put employees through human resource development initiatives, and be that through ensuring that we are able to deal with this big challenge that we know our employees have with regard to garnishee orders. So it is an agreement that really touches on a number of key elements that have presented themselves. And the third element, I think, is, how do we get the companies going again? And there we've got specific agreements, arrangements around how we're going to tackle the issue of productivity improvement, which, as I said earlier on, is critical to ensure that the companies are able to afford these increases.
Well, 24 billion rand lost in revenue over the past 5 months. That's quite a chunk. The real concern right now, perhaps, is retrenchment. So those are a possibility.
Look, I think we have always maintained that the companies went into the negotiations or went into the strike being in very, very dire conditions given the global economic dynamics of the PGM industry. Our primary focus at this stage is what do we do to get the business going. We have just commenced the safe and efficient startup program. Our employees have started reporting for work today. We would like to see more of them getting back to work. And I think at the right time we will start talking about what the impact really is and how we intend to deal with that impact.
All right, but in your response, I'm not hearing a commitment to whether or not there will be retrenchments. And yet, President of Amcu spoke quite emphatically quite recently, this week in fact, about how there will be no retrenchments specifically for those that are with Amcu and some of the workers. Your thoughts?
We maintain that it's correct to push that line and say that should there be any retrenchment at this stage, that would be prematurely. And let us also take the notion of the strike causing havoc in the mines. It's not quite true, because retrenchment has been happening even if there was nothing. You'd remember Anglo-American Platinum was trying to retrench plus or minus 14,000. And as Amco, we stood in the place and said, no, let us look at all the necessities and all the basic things that we can do to avoid such retrenchments. And at the end of the day, we were amicably both on the same place. We have arrived to the point where we said, no, it's not essential that so many people should go. But others were directed to other places, etc. And even in this instance, it's not that the platinum is not there, right? The platinum is safe and sound underground. People are back to extract that. So I don't think it's logical to say that the companies have lost and as if the platinum is not there. The platinum is there. People are going down there to extract the platinum.
Is that downplaying the loss for the companies?
The loss that have been incurred by the companies is massive. That's an undeniable fact. The loss to the country's economy is massive, and that we cannot deny. Now, the point that we're making is we went into this process being in a difficult position, which has been worsened by the impact of the 5-month strike. Now, we've always maintained throughout the engagements with Amcu that restructuring of our businesses is inevitable. But as I said earlier on, our primary focus at this stage is how do we get back into full operation? How do we ensure that we get the businesses going again? And what measures do we put in place to make sure that we are hopefully able to arrive at a point where if and when we get to that point of announcing that we would be embarking upon restructuring, that we are able to mitigate the impact thereof. Now, Jeff is right in saying that once we arrive at that point, the Labour Relations Act provides a mechanism of us engaging with Amcu in terms of the restructuring. So we will cross that bridge when we get to it. But our primary focus at this stage is we have now completed the agreement. We now need to get back into operation. We are busy with a safe and efficient startup program. Our employees have reported back, and it will take us a number of weeks to get back into production, because the nature of this process is such that our focus now is on things like medical, making sure that our employees are well to go underground, the nutritional support program that we've got in place, the financial well-being program that we've put in place. We have agreed with Amcu that we will advance the back pay of our employees to enable them to get going again. So that is our primary focus at this stage. How do we enable employees to get back into full production? And that at the right time we will start the process of talking about what the impact has been and how we're going to deal with that impact.
Was that a surprise element in terms of having those negotiations, especially for the employees themselves, the fact that they will also be receiving a back pay for the time that they have lost?
No, it's not a surprise. It's correct expectations from the side of employees. In all negotiations, we had to agree with companies that there will be a backdated amount for the period that negotiations have been going on. So yes, we have agreed with the company to do that.
Oh, gentlemen, please stay with us. We're going to continue this discussion. Question time takes a break. Don't move. Welcome back to Question Time. I'm Naledi Moleo in for Mpho. My guests in studio today are A.B. Khotle, the Executive Vice President of Human Capital at Lonmin, and Jeff Mphahlele, the General Secretary of Amcu. Perhaps let's talk about going into the future, some measures perhaps that are in place to ensure that we do not see another record strike taking place.
As long as if it is done legally, there will be no problem with that. Yeah. I don't think that the agreement that we have come up with right now will necessitate any action from Amcu. And I just hope and pray that also the companies will live up to expectations on the things that we have agreed for or about, so that those things do not form a stumbling block. But having said that, yes, the provision is there that when there are new issues of mutual interest or issues that really would take us to CCMA, and we are given a certificate to strike, those would be at the discretion of the members to exercise their power. It does not stop us from saying that we have secured this agreement, then we can't strike. No, it doesn't mean that. But yes, on the basic conditions that we have been talking about here and the salaries, I don't think that Amcu would really be reckless and say we are going for a strike. Mm-hmm. Yes, but we also hope that the companies, all three of them, will play their part and live as per this agreement.
Is there not a concern from by mine producers, Lonmin specifically, that Amcu and employees could then stage another strike next year, requesting another increment of some sort?
No, that expectation doesn't arise, quite frankly. Where I do agree with Jeff is the agreement itself clearly spells out the terms that have been agreed, and these terms are applicable for the next 3 years, and therefore it doesn't become necessary for Amcu or employees to embark upon a strike related to any of the elements that are contained in this agreement. But I think also of significance is the work that is going to unfold over the next couple of months in respect of the process issues. Once again, you'll recall that I spoke about living conditions, I spoke about productivity improvement, I spoke about an ESOP, and so on and so forth. The work that has to unfold in those areas is so critical that we do not want to find ourselves 3 years down the line talking about the same issues. So we've got this opportunity with our majority union, Amcu, and all the other stakeholders to make sure that we put our shoulders behind the wheel and get going with those very, very important issues.
Well, perhaps the more important question would be whether or not it's time for government to start putting some kind of restrictions and overhauling union-friendly laws in the country.
Look, I think two things. We think that, yes, there is a case to be made for just a review of our labor relations dispensation to make sure that some of these things are dealt with. But I think what is very, very critical, as I said, is there is a relationship that exists between ourselves and Amcu. There is a relationship that needs to be enhanced, and that relationship can only be enhanced by the two of us working together on the issues that we've agreed upon and making them happen, because that will fundamentally assist us to avert what we have seen over the last 5 months.
Right. And your response to that question, has labor relation laws perhaps given unions free rein?
I don't think it's free rein, because in some quarters there are still complaints about this Labor Relations Act, where Amcu has gained the majority status and all of a sudden the Labor Relations Act must be amended and so on. I think if we can take out the if we can take out the government out of the picture for a moment and say, let us deal with labor relation issues at mine level. And we know as unions how to behave, but the problem is with these unions which are linked to the government. And that is the force behind all the proposals that have been made in terms of changing Section 22, Section 18 of the labor relationship. Those are the things that we feel, because we are non-aligned, we are just being pushed to the corner as unions who are not in the tripartite arrangement with the government. So it creates stumbling block, because once you attain a position of being a minister in government, you should treat all the subjects equally. We as Amcu, we expect the same. I'm happy to hear that Minister Ramatlodi is saying that he will treat every union equally and so on. That is what is needed. We don't need to change the laws. If government would come up straightly and take the lead and say this is how things should be done, I don't think there would be a problem. Now, for us as Amcu, we see that there are favoritism all over the place, because we are non-aligned, and then those unions like the NUM and so on, all the COSATU affiliates, they enjoy better, what you call, treatment in these companies, etc. So that is the problem. That's what causes havoc when we come to issues of mutual interest and other issues of substantive nature.
All right. Well, 24 billion rand later, lost in revenue, 10 billion rand lost by workers over the past 5 months. Analysts have said that the strike as well has set back the mining investment by 10 years. Let's just talk about who the real winners and losers are out of all of this.
Well, I mean, our view is there are no winners, from this strike. I'm sure Jeff would be the first to say, yes, our workers, our members have gotten a good deal. It may be so, but if in the bigger scheme of things, there are no winners. I mean, our communities have suffered immensely out of this. Our employees have suffered immensely. Our suppliers have suffered immensely. Our companies have suffered immensely. So no winners at all, but we have an opportunity to rebuild the organizations. We have the opportunity to rebuild relations that have existed and that will continue to exist. And we've got this one chance to make it right. And we're looking forward to working with Amcu to make that happen.
Right. Well, the view from this side is that there are no real winners.
I'll differ sharply.
I'm sure.
I'll differ sharply with Amy. Remember that our country is in a very young democracy. We have waited for so long for this democracy. Then at the end of it all South Africans appeared to be winners. So we cannot shy away. Yes, the intended goal has not been reached, but what has been attained right now, it dictates one thing, that workers at this point in time have won. Let me make an example.
A short one, a very short one.
In the past, it was only Indian workers who were earning 4,500 per month. And our black workers were at 1,500 in these mines. It took them 17 years to where they are right now. Now, when we look at what we have achieved as Amcu, it will, at the rate of what NAM has achieved of 420, 460, it will take them 7 years to achieve a mere 3,000.
What that you have been able to achieve within 5 months.
To achieve in 5 months, yes.
All right. Well, from Amcu's side, cause for celebration. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. AB Khotle as well as Jeff Mpahlele. Absolutely wonderful speaking to you. That was Question Time for today. A big thank you to our guests and thank you to you for watching the show. We welcome your feedback via email on questiontime@sabc.co.za, or you can tweet us. Our Twitter handle is @questiontime24. From me, Naledi Mulao, and the rest of the Question Time crew, have yourselves a wonderful afternoon. Goodbye.